mother who went to Victoria College of Art, and the next year Kathleen sent her daughter to art school, and that's where I met Cal. So Cal was in, Chantel, are you here? Cal was in my first color theory class. She took color theory. She made all the chips, everybody, that you've all made. So it's just kind of a bit of a testimonial that if you do your chips, you can, you know, make good at yourself. It teaches you discipline. It teaches you all kinds of things. So that's how I know Cal. Another person here who's on our board. Where are you? Trish, where are you? Trish was Cal's roommate and in the same class.
And look who I just found outside.
Oh, Chris. Hey, Chris.
Hey. Isn't that hilarious?
We've seen each other for 20 years.
Yeah.
This is great. Yeah, they all got older than I did. I would like to thank Efren for coming and taping. Efren, that's really...
Yay!
And thank you to Marianne for coming. Marianne was the secretary of Victoria College of Art at that time.
Yes. Registrar.
Registrar, excuse me. And so thank you for being here. Isn't it fun? Everybody's here to see you. It's a family deal here. So Cal's education is she went to Victoria College of Art. After that, she studied welding at Camosun. This is her little quick CV. After that, what happened? You went to Nova Scotia. She went to NASCAD, Nova Scotia School. What's that? She rode her bike across Canada to NASCAD. And then she did her master's at State University of New York. She exhibits everywhere. She has a gallery in Montreal. And that gallery is called what? Art Muir. And recently did a piece in Australia. And you're going to talk about that piece that you did in Australia. She grew up on Vancouver Island and studied welding, planning to use that technique to make art, and that proved impossible, simply to make a living. So, I got it in the New York Times. I put it in the New York Times. No, this is really good. Some sculptors, including Rich's Sarah, who called welding a form of stitching, used the technique to join pieces of metal. Ms. Lane, by contrast, uses her torch to cut Baroque patterns into such mundane objects as shovels, dumpsters, and old oil drums. The work is about the contrast between the industrial and the fanciful, the opaque and the transparent. Cal describes herself as a person who has always had opposites in her head. She started her adult life as a hairdresser, trained under her mother. And but she said she was a tomboy, and welding seemed to fit me better. The mix of feminine and masculine vocations, teasing hair and welding steel, she said, is encapsulated in her work. So I'm going to introduce Cal, but just one quick pledge drive. You know how they do that on the it's so short. The pledge drive is so short, I won't take up any of your time. The little thing is there at the bottom. It's a gumball machine. You can just put money in it.
And so if you donate money, it'll go to future artist talks. So it costs us $100 to $200 to have artist talks. So we put it all directly to the next artist talk. So this $5, $10 would be fantastic.
It's worth it.
And just one more piece of housekeeping. Somebody has to run up and turn the heater off.
I'll do that.
Oh, we will expire. Okay, so without any further ado, Cal Lane. Cal, welcome. Oh, the light should go down. And if you can't hear at the back, we have no problem speaking up. So,
yeah, let me know if I'm not speaking loud enough, and I'll try to speak louder. I'm going to start off with this piece because it was one of the last pieces I finished, and then I'll backtrack and show a progression of how I ended up, well, here, I guess. This is a commission piece from the New York subway station. It's in Brooklyn, the Knickerbocker Station stop. I think there's a lot of students here. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that didn't work for me and that I have troubles with too, just to get a sense of my decision making and where if it was right or wrong, I don't know. So I really hate doing commissions, and partly because all of my work has always been about about me being alone in the studio, making my own decisions, not having to work with anybody or follow rules. And in particular this piece, because my work has always been about taking found objects and taking away their function and just not having any guidelines. So this piece was really difficult for me to do because I really had to change my head and how I had to think about it. And this is the MTA for the Arts, who commissioned artists to do the subway stations. This is the third time they asked me to do a proposal, and the first time I got it. So I learned a lot along the way there too, screwing up a couple of times ahead of that. So I'm going to show a couple of pictures and I have a little video of the process of me making it. It consists of 30 panels, and each panel is double layered, so it has a bit of a texture. And they're all hand cut, which is ridiculous. I didn't want to do it that way. This was going to be my first piece that I was going to actually get laser cut. But the architects said they really liked the hand cut quality, so. The idea behind it, I wanted to choose something that was significant to the area of Bushwick, Brooklyn, and I wanted to not just use them as a flat image, as something to create an image onto, but I kind of wanted to try and change the space too, make it more of an architectural piece. So, and I also wanted to connect it to my own practice. So I used the shovel image because I've been working with shovels for a long time. I always liked how they're like a working class tool, but shaped like a Gothic arch, and they have this beautiful elegance about them. I like that contrast with the shovel. Repeating them into like a Gothic window, and the images in each shovel comes from a pattern I adopted from the old buildings surrounding there. And then the lines around them were, because you're not allowed to put a baby head through anything, so that was the guidelines that they had to be. So I'm going to backtrack now. This is 15 years ago. In Nova Scotia, I just finished my undergraduate degree, and the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia asked me to do an outdoor piece in their square, a temporary piece. And I was thinking about limitations with the MTA piece and with this piece as well. And how limitations actually was a really beneficial thing for me. Not only it sort of pushed me to do things that I wouldn't normally do, and being pushed to do things I wouldn't normally do or wouldn't normally think of is kind of what led me to my whole career.
When did you do the MTA piece?
It was just finished last year. So this piece, I was just finished my undergrad. I had no studio and no money and no tools, and I was asked. The budget for the gallery was really small, but it was just enough money to buy all these old used I-beams at the Dartmouth scrapyard. And the city of Halifax gave me a studio to work in, which was really great. And I bought a cutting torch and a Barista. So that's how I ended up doing all this prep work, because that's the only tool I had as well. So these are 9 I-beams I drew lace patterns on just by hand. Everybody says they look really perfect and even, but they're not when you look at them close. You can tell they're all hand-drawn and wonky. And then I have cut them with an oxyacetylene torch, which is still my favorite tool. I don't use it so much anymore, but it's a beautiful tool. So each beam is a different ribbon pattern. The title of the piece is called Fabricate because as a welder I'm a fabricator, and the word actually derives from the fabric. So I like that relationship.
Callie, you said this is a temporary exhibit.
It was a temporary thing, yeah. So it was a lot of work for a piece that I had to cut up, but I was so glad I did it. I wasn't sure, I didn't want to worry about what I was going to do with the I-beams after that. I thought I just wanted to make this piece, so who cares? But I've been cutting them up smaller and smaller. I shipped them ultimately. I drove them to New York in bits. And then they've been in other shows and in other installations, and sold quite a few, so the Museum of Luxembourg bought a bunch of them, and yeah, that's so. And it also actually got me the grant or the scholarship to do my master's in New York, because it was reviewed in Sculpture magazine, so it did really well for me. This show. It took me 3 months to do all 9 of them. Steady. I don't think I can do it anymore though, because I've been doing this for too long. Now my back hurts all the time. So.
Did you start with a girder and cut out the web, or did you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I put a few of these other pieces in that because I don't normally title my work. I usually title my work it's really straightforward. I don't want to blur the lines. I don't want to change the meaning of the piece. I want to leave it to be more of a visual language. But some of my work, like Fabricate, and this is called Hard Wrench. Some of my work is about the language as well. And with the adjustable wrench, the hard breaks. And these are name droppings, which I cut up a bunch of famous people's names and put them into the vault. And this is Klaus Oldenburg is here. Which I did this with my oxyacetylene torch as well, just burned into the grass and painted it. So how I started the idea of making steel lace was partly from my experience of growing up in a hair salon and not fitting in, and switching occupations to becoming a welder is such a contrast. And I was really interested in, part of my drive to being a welder was I loved the idea, the social part of becoming a welder too. I think being in the hair salon, I always wanted to dress like a boy, and I thought it was because I was more of a boy myself, but I found when I started trade school, I suddenly wanted to be very feminine, because I think I always just wanted to be the opposite of what people expected. So I loved playing with those social rules a lot. So what I started doing is I was working in a metal shop, and I was cleaning up after he was gone for the guy who worked there the next day, and I just, as a joke, put doilies on all the equipment to, keep it tidy, and the bandsaw and the drill press. And I like the relationship of this delicate, decorative thing on top of a cold steel masculine object. It just was an attractive combination. So then I started making the doilies, a big, thick steel plate. So these were originally just steel plate. I also got at the scrapyard and drew the doily patterns on it and cut out with the oxyacetylene torch.
Did you do these when you were up there?
I did these in Halifax. Yeah. As an undergrad. No, because I worked as a welder in Nelson, British Columbia for a while before I started my undergrad. And it was, you're just working all day, you just don't want to do it again. So, yeah. This is another thing about being pushed. I don't just work in steel. I actually do like the idea of having an idea and then choosing the material that best suits it, instead of having a material and trying to figure out what to do with it. But I've been going on this progression. All my ideas tend to come from the steel and the material, partly out of the material. I love its qualities and its industrial nature. I love the combination of technique too. So anyways, these are rustprints, stains that I take the objects that I cut and I put it on canvas or paper and keep it wet for about a month, and then it stains the paper. I'm trying to think of them as sculptures because they're about material. And then from there I went getting more functional objects and taking away the function. Again, the girders again. I cut an eyelet pattern into something that my mom used to put on my dress. troubles. This is when, so yeah, this taking the found objects, functional objects, and making them unfunctional. And yeah, I was appreciating the relationship with the working class tool to more of an elegant tool. And repeated it, I felt it took away its function as well. And I'm using a plasma curtains board, which is a, if you can see the video, it's me using a plasma curtains. It works like, kind of like, well, arc welding and jumper cables. It has a positive and negative electrical current. So when you place the steel, your torch on the steel, it creates a closed circuit, and it's the electricity that burns the metal away, and compressed air that blows the metal away. So you can get really good detail with it, whereas an oxyacetylene torch is just super hot and it just melts. It's good. So this is good for thinner. And the wheelbarrow.
You have such fine detail. What happens if that center beautiful rose with little tiny pieces all around it break?
It's so strong. You know, that's what I love about steel. I could use it. I could put rocks in there and it would break.
So you structurally, you've not had it where a little bit sort of fall away and you have to...
Yeah, I don't plan things that much. I just, what I like about working with a torch is kind of in between drawing and carving. So I kind of work with it, carve it away, and if it burns away too much, and I work with that, it's just a bigger hole. So it's the nice thing about lace, it's not so perfect, and the shiftiness of it actually works.
How many hours did that take, the wheelbarrow?
I don't know, everybody's asking you about time, which I understand.
It's the main question people always ask artists.
I know. And I always wonder if I said it took me 5 minutes, I always wonder how people would judge it one way or the other. Or if I say it took 5 months, I wonder, is it better or worse? I get the opposite reaction if I say, oh, it took me a month, and they go, oh, what a waste of time. Or if it took me a day, or an hour, then
I think we're not used to seeing physical labor, so people,
yeah.
It's very captivating.
And that's part of it for me, because I'm a fidgety person, and part of the labor is to kind of calm myself down. So, but the wheelbarrow, how long did it take? Probably 3 weeks. And then the time constraints for me is my body now that I'm 46, I can't bend over so long anymore, so I can only cut for a little while and then have a break.
Did you draw the pattern on? Like
The wheelbarrow, actually, I used a lace tablecloth as a stencil.
So you put it right on?
Yeah. This is a car hood. I did a whole car bombing piece.
You've got sand on the floor?
Yeah, it's dirt. I'll show you more of that later too. I do a lot of dirt sifting with patterns as well, at base.
So you came across an abandoned car and...
I got different parts of cars and I cut it all up and then I smashed it with a sledgehammer. And I liked how the folds of the steel resembled fabric as well, and that kind of hard, soft quality.
Strip all the paint off.
This one, I can't remember if it did or not. First, it tends to burn away as I cut it, but it's also hard to cut it with the paint on it. If it's thick, the current will go through it. So I probably sanded it down a bit and then burnt it. So then I went into doing lots of oil containers. This was sort of, I was thinking a lot about George Bush because I moved to the US and about the war and the relationship with religion and oil and the war. And I was starting to find taking an object and changing it into a new shape more attractive, because then you have the relationship of the old object to the relationship of the new shape. And then I can use that as a kind of canvas to work with, to relate to. So it's got the oil can and kind of unfolded it out into a cross. And then cut narratives into that.
There's a lot going on in every one.
Yeah, and all my work has a political root to it, but I'm not interested in being very overt with what I'm not actually trying to say anything in particular. I'm pulling out relationships and questions that I have myself and putting them together. And I think for me that makes it more interesting as a viewer too, I find. I'm not a huge fan of work that you have to read about and understand what specifically it's about, because I don't know what my work's about half the time. I mean, I know where the roots comes from, where my head's at. I like the relationship of the domestic and the industrial. I like also now how, like especially with the first I-beam pieces, they were a little bit about being sarcastic, about the whole macho steel, Mark de Souvreau kind of sculpture. So it was kind of taking the piss out of him, really. Not him in particular, but that whole genre of sculpture and being a tough guy. So I kind of think of my work as a little bit sarcastic. So these are oil cans too that are almost, I mean you can see how strong that is. I've almost taken them all out. There's hardly any steel left, but especially because oil cans are made from a high carbon steel or high strength steel.
So you're really testing the strength of the material.
Yeah, and it's become a line as opposed to any surface left. These are candy cans. I'm working on these right now because I'm doing a whole panty series. I'm making a big panty chain and panty stains for the Westwards. So I like them to be funny. I mean, there's always a bit of both humor and seriousness that I like to do. These are oil drums that I cut part open and pulled up to look a bit like a tapestry. And then with the first one is just a repeated pattern of nuclear caution signs, and then the other ones are more narrative. The one in the middle has Vancouver Island in it, and part of my history and life mixed with medieval imagery. This is the love rug. It's got like a Kama Sutra figures around.
Does the metal melt away? Is that what I understand from what you're saying?
If I used the oxyacetylene torch, it would be very difficult to cut something this thin. It's just too hot. But the plasma cutter allows you to cut thinner metal. Especially the little oil cans are really, really thin. And even with the plasma cutter, it's really, you have to cut really fast, or else it loses its connection. So it's kind of either every cut I make, it's just kind of a quick thing.
But some metal falls away.
Oh, I see. Yeah, yeah. When you cut it, yeah, it's called a kerf. It depends on the torch tip. You know, you can get a wider or a thinner, like a pen sort of thing, and that part of the metal will fall away. I have thousands and thousands of pieces, you know, from all this cutting, and I'm just starting a show that I'm working on now. I'm welding them all into babies right now, so because I just want to say I'm going to go home and make babies. So the oil drum also, I liked how it kind of looked like a map too, like kind of over the southern hemisphere. So I separated it. And I tried to use contemporary imagery and think of it as an ancient map. natural. Either it's rusty or this one was a red foil drum, so I left it as is.
Do you buy new oil drums?
No,
They're used.
they're used, yeah.
So do you have to treat the inside first of all?
It's tricky. Well, with these ones, they at least have a capping that came up. But they usually just burn out as I cut them, they catch on fire. I do larger tanks too, which catch on fire. But I know it actually does make me a bit nervous sometimes. The first cut is the hardest because you don't know if it's going to hold the gas and blow up quicker than you can make a hole. So I cut like this.
Exciting day.
And this was I call this Bush's column. I was thinking about Trajan's column, where Trajan had cut all his wars into marble to commemorate a commemorative column. This is a sculpture center in Boston. And these are the regular house oil tanks. This is part of a show I did a few years ago called Sweet Crude. Topographical map oil cans and mapping the oil tanks. So this is one of the thicker oil tanks that I had to go back to using the oxy-acetylene torch in this one because it was too thick for my plastic room. And some of the old I-beams that I put in that show too. We'll keep coming to that. I've got some process shots here. I was asked to do an oil tank for a piece for the Philadelphia Design Center. And because they have this really old, beautiful collection of lace in their basement. And this is where it got awkward for me because I got known for all this lace work that I do. And I actually started doing lace because I hated lace. And I got asked to do this show about loving lace, and I had to do a talk. And all these lace enthusiasts, they're asking, oh, what is it about lace you love so much? Oh, it's such a fraud. But so anyways, I took one of the lace patterns and I drew it onto well, I made the plan first, and then drew it onto a tank. This is the tank above. That and then painted the pattern. And then this is the oxy-acetylene torch, which is a really beautiful and fun way to work because it is very dramatic, the flames and the molten metal. The plasma cutter I find not as exciting, so I do miss this one. Actually, that's my first tool too. And I got the rest of it. And then I come for these.
Are you working on site for the
No, that's at my house, and then I drove it. I fit into I rented a truck. I fit into one of those. It's a 12-foot long tank. This is in Toronto just last year. It was in Nuit Blanche. And both tanks in beams. Ammunition boxes. This was part of the show. I have a gallery in Chelsea as well in New York. And this was 2 years ago, I guess. This show was a series of ammunition boxes and a 40-foot long pipe. And the surface of this is just coming from the heat, peeling the paint away. That gives it that round edge. It's the pipe in two pieces. This is shown in a lot of galleries, and it keeps changing as it shows because I couldn't get the two scenes together the first time, so that I put them separate.
How
some of us saw this at the Grant Gallery in Vancouver.
Yeah, no, that was half of it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in Vancouver last year, right? That was last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it was, I call it Gutters Night. I was thinking about where I grew up, there was a big culvert like this underground that I used to walk to school and play in and send mudboats down it. And I wanted to create a kind of fantasy, dreamy, but dark environment in it. So there, let's see close-ups on that background. So this is the first time I really had I had a very limited time span to finish it, so I really just drew really fast, wasn't really thinking, and just cut it out. And so when I look at it now, I don't remember it hardly. I don't know what's going on.
Cal, is that galvanized steel, like the ribbed stuff?
It's aluminized steel.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't cut, well, you can cut galvanized steel, but it'll kill you. But
Okay.
there's zinc in it, so it's really dangerous to work with. So now, yeah, now you can get it aluminized, which isn't so bad. There's that damn scene. So here's some of the dirt sifting pieces. I started thinking about, like with the steel work, it's a lot about technique and mixing up what you do with the technique. Because I was working with lace, I was remembering my grandma used to decorate cakes with doilies, put them on cakes and put icing sugar through it. And so I used this tablecloth and put dirt over top of it. So it's a really easy thing to do. People think I can do it like mandalas. It takes seconds to make. And I started with a series of these and filling galleries with dirt and sweeping through it.
I happened to come upon this in Halifax, and I had been here for your last talk.
Oh, really?
And I was like, wait a minute, I know what this is.
So you saw the one I did in the Page and Strange gallery?
In the street, right
Oh,
near, the street, the pedestrian street, right near the art school.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a tribute to Jerry Ferguson, yeah.
It was excellent.
And that one, the mice took it over. They made little nests and holes in all the dirt. I loved it, it was great. You could see where they've been walking through it. I did it outdoors for in Washington, D.C. They asked me to just do it, and it felt more like a performance. I was doing it all over the streets in Washington. So it only lasted until it rained or blew away. And this is powdered tires. This is ice and sugar. I like the mixture of patterns too. I'm also doing really great now. I didn't bring any pictures of it, but for the past 7 years I've been a wedding cake that's 7 feet tall out of tires. So I have a huge tire at the bottom and that tears up. And then I got black silicone. They come in those caulking tubes. The icing tips for cake decorating fit perfectly onto it. So I've been making rosettes and flowers all over this giant cake. And it lasts forever. One tire's been outside for 7 years and it's dull, but it's fun. You can still drive on it. Funny skid marks. And so then I started doing it over my friends. Working the territories. I love these images because I like the sort of morbid side to it, and it's also kind of sexy at the same time. My friend Caroline, she said, sure, I'll do it if you want. And it ended up on the cover of a really big book. So I was like, oh no.
What's your process for that? Because it looks like there's copper or something.
It's her skin. She's black, but it comes out the way I don't know, yeah, just the way her skin is. But it's the same, I just put the tablecloth right over her and put the dirt on top and pull it off. Oh, this is the Australian. It was for the Biennale of Sydney 3 years ago, I guess. I was working on Cockatoo Island, which is in Sydney Harbour, which is, it used to be a penitentiary and then it became a shipbuilding island, and then it was just abandoned for many, many years. And now they're sort of reclaiming or fixing it up so it's kind of an arts place where people do concerts. And it's a beautiful place to go if you're ever there. And they gave me a huge warehouse to work with and a shipping container. And so I was trying to make kind of a domestic prison out of the shipping container. And this I did on site. And the roof is, I cut those, I was trying to think of wind. I cut the swirls and then bent them up so they're still partly attached. The National Gallery owns this now, so they have it there. And I also did the dirt sifting, but I used the red sand from Australia. And I made a, I did a repetitive lace pattern. Actually, the lace I used was, it was my mom and dad's 50th wedding anniversary, the same day that this opened, and the lace piece that I used was a tablecloth I got for their wedding present 50 years ago.
Does your mom know?
Yeah, I felt so bad for missing their 50th wedding anniversary party, but I sent them, yeah, I was doing this for them. See, here's the this is another shipping container, a smaller one. It used to hold bullets. It's a smaller container. I wanted to make, I was thinking of those draperies that cover coffins called How. Some piece called Cargo. I was trying to make it look like a table. It has these great shadows from the top.
In Australia, maybe I missed that part of the story.
The Sydney Biennale, they invited me. They invite people from countries. That was it was hard to do too, working with lots of other people around. And I had a composer next to me who hated me because I made so much noise and kept complaining that I was making noise.
Now, did you represent U.S. or Canada?
Canada, yeah.
So they invite you over and you're there for a period of time and you have to produce a number of pieces on site?
You have to give a proposal first. They invite you and then if they like your proposal, then they accept it or not. So, yeah. So I knew ahead of time what I was going to make. And so they bought the plasma cutter and the air compressor and everything from there. And I was there for 2 months. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. I'm showing this piece. This is a commission that didn't happen, which is a shame because I really wanted it to happen. I was commissioned by the country of Montenegro to cut up a submarine. And in my research, it was commissioned by some London art collectors, but it was going to remain in Montenegro, which is the former Yugoslavia. And they didn't want anything political. That was what they were asking. So when I was doing my research on Yugoslavia, this area still has a lot of landmines in it. And I discovered that Canada and Denmark are working, bioengineering this flower called the thale cress, that you can put all these seeds down, these flowers grow, and if there's a landmine under it, it turns red. So I thought I'd do the fail press bomb sniffing flower on the submarine. It's kind of political, but gently so when he needs to know about that's myself. But so I'm just going to finish off with this show because it was the last exhibition I had in Montreal, and it's coming to the Yukon next year, December 3rd. I think it opens. Failed hoods. It's a series of car hoods that I failed. And I leave the structures behind me too. Contrast. I like the hard edge and the soft line together. And the breastplates from the hoods.
So do you like lace now?
Yeah, I do. No, I have definitely a different relationship with lace now. It's hard lace. So that's the work.
Whilst we're looking for the tire cake, probably turn the light. Oh, don't need the light. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Any other questions?
So if you have a question, will you speak up quite loudly? Man at the back, is that Chris?
This is Chris, yeah.
Hey, Chris.
Hi. So I have a question about your process. Could you talk a little bit about your process with, say, like the small shipping container, the table shipping container?
So that was done in Albany. I did it on site as well. The University of Albany permitted me to do that piece. And very loosely drew it on. I was looking at a pattern. I used a paintbrush for that. I painted it on.
Are you pre-drawing? Like, are you pre-planning your patterns, or are you taking them from found objects?
I adopt them from actual pieces of lace.
Okay, so they're all, well, some of them I guess are pictorial, right?
Yeah, not all of them. Yeah, I kind of prefer to use something that already exists.
Right.
I like, because I don't want it to be made up, I want it to relate to something in particular. So, yeah, so almost all of them, except for the ones that are more narrative, that I put stories in and objects. Yeah.
Do you find because I mean they're so detailed, do you find you're spending a lot of time like rendering, like doing drawings beforehand, or are you really just working in the moment on the material?
No, actually, when I draw, it's very loose because when I start cutting, it changes. So it just gives me a vague idea of what's going to happen, but I don't do it that way. That's why people keep saying you got to hire assistants, and I can't do that because unless I figure out how to plan a little better, have to completely change the way I work.
Because it's in the more in the moment.
Yeah,
that's really interesting.
Yeah, and unless I can find an assistant that can do that as well, I don't know. I mean, a lot of artists do find people that work with me for years and can adopt the process, but I haven't found anybody yet.
Yeah, so that would really change if you did go to, say, like laser cutting or water jet cutting.
Yeah, I have no well, especially, isn't it light? But there's, well, at the subway station, I could have just cut 3 of them and then scanned those and just, repeated those, and they would have looked all
they would have been
I have
rough.
nothing, and I have no romance about doing everything, definitely not now. I shortlisted for a big commission in Toronto where I'm gonna, if I get it, I'm gonna do laser cutting. So, yeah, I'm excited to be working so hard. Have you done laser cutting yet? No, never have.
Barry?
Cal, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the effects of light and shadow in these.
I had issues with using light and shadow at the beginning. I think because coming from NASCAD, where anything theatrical is kind of looked down upon, it's got to be a, so they're all about pure sculpture.
Right.
It stands alone, you don't light it, you don't paint it, truth to materials, and I found the play with shadows was theatrical and maybe a little bit silly, so, but I've got the end of that. I now kind of want to, if I'm going to be doing something so detailed and I might as well go as far as I can.
Do you think it takes away from the quality of the work itself then? Is that what you're saying?
It changes it, I think. That's all. No, I don't think so. Do you think so?
No.
Barry used to be my teacher too.
Spotlight.
Thanks, Barry. John, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm curious about the submarine. Two questions. Why didn't it happen? And would the cutting process have been the same?
I'm not sure why it didn't happen. I think it was political. Because they didn't really tell me what it was, who was going to end up owning it and become liable if somebody hurt himself on it. And yeah, that too. I think they were a little bit naive on what it took to do it. When I went down there, you know, it's an espionage submarine, so it's completely filled with hydraulics and equipment, and I can't cut into that. There's things that will explode, and so I said it's going to have to be gutted for starters, and that was going to cost $500,000 just to start, and then so it kind of seemed, as much as I would have loved to have done it, it almost would have been easier to rebuild a submarine out of sheet and then cut it. Yeah.
Yes, did you have a question? No? Other questions?
So do you,
Go ahead.
sorry, do you do any fabricating of pieces before you start, or do you just mostly use found?
Yeah, I mostly use found stuff. The Toronto piece is going to be like the fabricated I-beams, but I'm going to build the I-beams because the only way I can laser cut is a flat sheet, and then I'll build those. But no, I like having an object to start with to react to. I would find it hard to just, almost like a painting, I guess. I always struggled with painting, sorry.
Oh, don't apologize.
Because it's a blank canvas, and I had to start.
And it has no shape. It's just a rectangle, but you're starting with something that's a thing already.
Yeah.
Lynn, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was curious about how you cut into the tires.
Oh, I don't cut into the tires. One was, this is the cake tire, so I iced it with the black silicone. That's another image. So you can see all the little, I don't know what those are called. I didn't make the black flowers, but I made rosettes and little things. I'm putting just cake decorating icing tips on the end of black silicone to do it.
How did, I'm curious about that because is that expanding?
No.
Foam?
No, it's caulking.
Just flat caulking.
Yeah, like what you caulk your windows with.
Does it stiffen up with time?
Yeah, I could drive on these. They're really hard. Well, they're not hard, but they're like hard rubber. So they're really indestructible.
No, I meant like the roses and stuff that you're doing with the silicone. Do they harden up? The roses that you're making with the silicone, does the silicone stiffen up?
Yeah. Yep. It doesn't go hard though. It stays like a soft rubber. Yep.
And the black roses, do you make those as well?
These ones, no. I do have some on the, you can't see it, on the upper level that I did make. They're a little bit trickier because the silicone's a little heavier. I got one of those little things, the tools to make it with. And they tend to droop a bit, but they still work.
I love that you moved to black silicone with the tips.
So one more question? Anybody have one more question?
But it's still kind of the same, I don't know, same idea, but it's mixing domestic and industry, masculine, feminine patterns. Yeah. The guys I bought these big truck tires from called me recently and said, "Do we want to know how the wedding cake is?"
Have you sent
Wedding cake decoration.
Have you sent him any pictures?
I will. I gotta finish it first.
Sean, one more question.
Between SUNY and the MTA, did you happen to run into a sculptor named Donna Dennis?
Yeah, she was my teacher. I used to cat sit
Oh,
for
she was?
Tribeca all the time.
Because she's designed for public transit.
She did, it wasn't a
Airport
subway
fence.
station, but it was a fence.
Yeah.
Yeah, in, I think it was Tribeca, yeah.
She was your teacher.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time in her awesome place in Tribeca. She built she did a huge maquette inside of the roller coaster, what's that called? The old roller coaster? Yeah. Yeah, I missed that place. You both know Donna, right? Yeah. She's not there anymore, though, I don't think.
No, I don't think. Okay, well, thanks, Cal. What a fantastic.
Should I try the video one more time?
And just to remind everyone, we have an opening this Friday at 6 o'clock with the instructors whose work is up. So if you'd like to meet the instructors and talk to them, it's a great opportunity. So Friday at 6. We're doing our openings early because apparently people are busy and they like to do other things in the evening.
Here's what a band.
Is that what's happening?
Yes.
So you can come on your way home from work.
Oh, it's working great.
The light is on. It's going most fast enough to play, so maybe it's better for it.
Yeah, that's a plasma cutter.
So there's different sizes of tips on that?
There's different sizes of tips for the oxyacetylene. There is for the plasma cutter too, but it's not as flexible as far as that goes.
I noticed you're not wearing gloves.
Yeah, it doesn't really burn. I usually wear gloves on my hand, but
Do you find it difficult to see through the welding mask?
not this one. It's a self-shielding one, so it darkens and lightens as the light darkens and lightens. It's more or less